I spent the last 12 years studying vulnerability, and that quote was everything I know about vulnerability. It is not about winning, it's not about losing, it's about showing up and being seen. The second thing, this is who I want to be. I want to create. I want to make things that didn't exist before I touched them. I want to show up and be seen in my work and in my life. And if you're going to show up and be seen, there is only one guarantee, and that is you will get your ass kicked. That is the guarantee. That's the only certainty you have. If you're going to go in the arena and spend any time in there whatsoever, especially if you've committed to creating in your life, you will get your ass kicked. So you have to decide at that moment, I think for all of us, if courage is a value that we hold, this is a consequence. You can't avoid it. The third thing, which really set me free and is kind of a new philosophy about criticism, which is this. If you're not in the arena also getting your ass kicked, I'm not interested in your feedback. If you have constructive information, feedback to give me, I want it. And I'm an academic, I'm hardwired for wrestling around with stuff like that. If you say, hey, you forgot all this literature, or hey, you should have done this, or terrible sentence construction over here, like let's do it. I love that. But if you're in the cheap seats, not putting yourself on the line and just talking about how I could do it better, I'm in no way interested in your feedback. So I know about the sweaty creative. And so what I want to do today is I want to talk very specifically about the arena. This is where we sweat. I live down here sometimes just dreaming about the day that I come up and how awesome it's going to be. But I stay down here a lot. And here's what we do. The arena's right there. You can see it. The light's there. And the fear is this. I'm scared. A lot of self-doubt, comparison, anxiety, uncertainty. And so what do most people do when they're walking into the arena and those things are going to greet them up top? What do? You armor up, right? This is where I would imagine the old days that they got all their stuff on. When you armor up in this hallway, you shut yourself off from everything that you do and that you love. Because vulnerability is certainly a part of fear and self-doubt and grief and uncertainty and shame, but it's also the birthplace of love, of belonging, of joy, trust, empathy, creativity, and innovation. Without vulnerability, you cannot create. So what I think you're asked to do on a daily basis is walk through this hall, get to the top of the stairs, and get naked. Get really real. Put yourself out there and walk out there so people can see you and see what you've made and see what you're doing. The thing that I learned about belonging that I think is so powerful and that I cling to as a creative is that belonging is not something we negotiate with the external world. It's something we carry in our hearts. And as it turns out, that the men and women who have the highest levels of true belonging not only find sacred being a part of something bigger, but they have the courage to stand alone. And the reason why art and creativity are going to be so important to our healing and to whatever comes next in our world is every creative knows what it's like to stand alone. And so creatives have this incredible ability when they find the confidence to be able to find beauty and value in being part of a creative community, but also the courage to stand alone. And so what I would say to you is understand, and I wouldn't say this as a therapist, I would just say it as a fellow creative that's found my own pain and success, is be a part of a creative group and community. But don't ever believe for a second that you are not going to have to stand on your own. You will have to be alone at some point. It is what we're called to do. And that's what Maya Angelou meant, I think, when she said, you belong everywhere, nowhere, which is everywhere. Because if you carry belonging in your heart, it's not negotiated externally with other people. And I think the thing that's really powerful is
as a social species, the reason why we feel lonely is because we are neurobiologically wired to be with each other. And as a social species, we need art, and we need music, and we need photography, and we need to see the artifacts that allow us to find our humanity in each other. That's art.
Yeah.
That's music. Oliver Sacks says, music pierces the heart directly. It needs no mediation. Like, that is one of our ways out here.
Vulnerability is not weakness. It's about the willingness to show up and be seen when you can't control the outcome. And it is actually our greatest measure of courage. So show up in an authentic way and let us see your hearts, because we know how lonely you actually are. I mean, it's really, men are lonely. It's really hard. But I don't think I would say anything differently to women as either. Because, for women, the greatest shame trigger is do it all, do it perfectly, and never let them see you sweat, look perfect, work perfect, but don't ever look like you're putting any effort toward it. We can't ever get rid of shame. What we can do is develop resilience to shame. So when it happens and it washes over, that warm wash that makes you feel small and not enough, when that washes over me, rather than yelling at my kids or just decimating myself with hateful language, and like, you're stupid or you're not, Now when it washes over me, I'm like, okay, I'm in shame. Don't talk, text, or type. What happened? I still have triggers around it. I still think it's probably the same. Motherhood, trying to, do everything and balance everything and be where I'm supposed to be. And that's still hard sometimes.
Yeah. What's the process that someone should take on when they feel shame, anger, rage?
Well, shame I can really help you with is, first and foremost, talk to yourself like you talk to someone you love. So if something happens and you're overwhelmed with shame, the first thing you need to do is get back on your emotional feet. Don't talk, text, or type to anyone, because one of the things we want to do is push that shit out on other people. Get into a dark, quiet place and then talk to yourself like you talk to someone you love. Just be like, dude, it's okay. Like, you screwed this up. What you said was super hurtful. You're gonna have to circle back and clean that stuff up. But give yourself a break here. Then reach out and talk to someone about what you're feeling. Shame cannot survive being spoken. So if I call you and I'm like, oh my God, Lewis, I'm in a shame shitstorm, you're not gonna believe what happened, and you listen to me and you respond empathetically, oh my God, I've been there, or oh God, I get it, I'm sorry, that sucks. Shame can't hold on, because shame can't survive empathy. So two choices. You own your story, you get to write the ending. You don't own the story owns you. So then you talk about it now. So shame can't hold on. But then people see and hear you talking about it, and it gives them permission to talk about it. That's why shame cannot hold on to being spoken. So your courage to talk about that deflates shame. It takes it out of the air. It's like filtering poison out of water, because you've got the courage to speak up. I mean, and that's how it works. And that's how all of this works, is that we own our story, or it owns us. True belonging is a spiritual practice, and it's about the ability to find sacredness in both being a part of something, but also the courage to stand alone. And the people, for those of us who struggle to have the courage to stand alone, especially when we know that we're risking that sense of being a part of something because we disagree.
Yes.
Because we have a different opinion, because we love something different. That's the mark of true belonging, to be able to say, yes, I am a part of something bigger, but I also will stand alone when I need to. And then it was like, oh, you belong everywhere and nowhere. And that is liberation. Because when I do a lot of leadership work, I talk about understanding your personal values, and my two personal values are faith and courage. And so they say, don't talk about faith; it's inappropriate. This is a corporation. And then I do a lot of work in churches, and they'll say, don't cuss. And so I just got to the point where I'm like, look, I've sat across from thousands and thousands of people over the last 2 decades of my life, listening to the hardest things you can imagine, and the two things that everyone has in common when they're talking about those things are cussing and praying. If you don't want me to cuss and you don't want me to pray, that's awesome. Ask somebody else. Because what I'm not going to do is get up and bullshit you. And there are a million people in this space who
who are better than I am, who know different things than I do. Invite them.
Right.
If you need me to wear a suit, I totally get it. I'm not going to do that. When I speak in public, I don't get up there to talk to to talk from my Brooks Brothers self to your Brooks Brothers self. I get up there, I'm going to talk about things that 90% of the people in the audience have never thought about, talked about, and are scared to listen to. And they need to see me as a person, and I'm just that person. And there's this part from Braving the Wilderness that it really changed me. It's the practice that came from the book, and it is, don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you don't belong, because you will always find it. Don't walk through the world looking for evidence that you're not enough, because you'll always find it. Our worth and our belonging are not negotiated with other people. We carry those inside of our hearts. And so for me, I know who I am. I'm clear about that. And I'm not going to negotiate that with you. I will negotiate a contract with you. I will negotiate maybe even a topic with you, but I'm not going to negotiate who I am with you. Because then, and this is I think the heart of the book, then I may fit in for you, but I no longer belong to myself. And that is a betrayal I am not willing to do anymore. I spent the first 30 years of my life doing that. I'm not willing to betray myself anymore to fit in with you. I just can't do it.
The 3 seats that will always be taken when you walk into the arena, when you share your work with someone, the 3 seats that will always be taken are shame, scarcity, and comparison. Shame, completely universal human emotion. We all have it. It's that gremlin that whispers, you're not enough. The other seat that's always taken is scarcity. What am I doing what am I doing that's original? Everyone else is doing this. 150 people are doing it who are better trained than I am. The third seat, always comparison. How many of you ever struggle with comparison? The thing is, I don't care what people think. I don't worry about the critics in the arena. Sends a huge red flag up for me. We're hardwired for connection. When we stop caring what people think, we lose our capacity for connection. When we become defined by what people think, we lose our capacity to be vulnerable. So rather than locking these folks out from the arena, what I'm going to invite you to do is reserve seats for them, which doesn't seem like a good thing to do. But I have 13,000 pieces of data, and I've done this work for 12 years. And what I have found and what I have learned from these folks and then try to apply it in my own life that has changed my life is to reserve a seat, to take the critics to lunch, and to simply say when I'm trying to do something new and hard and original, and I'm trying to be creative and I'm trying to innovate, to say, I see you, I hear you, but I'm going to show up and do this anyway. And I've got a seat for you, and you're welcome to come, but I'm not interested in your feedback. The other piece that's tough is, to me, if you're going to spend your life in the arena, if you're going to spend your life showing up, really showing up, there's a couple things that you need. The first is a clarity of values. You have to, I know, when I came out here, I knew I could screw this completely up. I could get booed off stage, bad things could happen, but I don't have a choice because if courage is my value, I have to do this. Whether it's successful or not is irrelevant. So a real clarity of values is important. The other thing is you gotta have at least one person in your life who's willing to pick you up and dust you off and look at you when you fail, which hopefully you will, because if you're not failing, you're really not showing up. But who is willing to look at you when you fail and say, man, that sucked. Yeah, it was totally as bad as you thought. But you were brave. And let's get you cleaned up, and because you're gonna go back in. And this is someone who loves you not despite your imperfections and vulnerabilities, but because of them. And they should have great seats in the arena.